Miss Capello, the librarian, talk to us more about last week. Remember we talked about the campus resources? So she's going to be on first, and then we're going to review Chapter 2. This is going to be, it's one of my favorite ones, emotional intelligence, resilience, and motivation. And then we're going to look at your test that you've got coming up this week. Sorry, I know I'm blocking you guys, and I feel bad about it. So I just can't get that chair out of my way. What would you guys like to bring up real fast? Anything? So Victoria, who normally sits beside Nicole, is online. Jasmine is sick today and won't be in. So is there anything that the rest of you might want to bring up? Like, how'd you do on your SMART goals? I'm going to bring up discussion number 2. Good. All right, so we're going to talk about those just because I want to get that kicked off. So we're also going to talk about discussion number 2. I'm going to mention SMART goals because I just want to make sure we break it down into, there's a great book called Atomic Habits. Whoops, that's a D, by James Clear. Sorry, Jody. I just feel like I'm blocking the door. So there's your author. There's the name of the book, and there's the author, James Clear. And he talks about making sure that when you are working on your goals, that you break it down to the atomic level. So I do want to mention that in terms of SMART goals. And then I'm just going to put a number 4 here that I'm going to leave blank in case there is something that you guys want to open up and discuss. So, Jody, let's see. Hey, Victoria, do me a favor. I'm going to turn this over to Miss Capella, the librarian, and I want to know if you can hear her through my headpiece. All right? So you're my test guinea pig, okay? Victoria?
Okay.
Okay, cool. All right, here you go. I'm going to let you take it away, and let's see if you can pick it up.
Okay. So she has said my name multiple times. My name is Jody Capello. You might see it written as Josina, but I do go by the nickname Jody. I am a librarian for Alpharetta, North Fulton. There are 4 more librarians over at Lawrenceville as well, and that's important to know because that is some of the additional staff that assist you remotely. So one of the things I'm going to show you is how to get help via chat, text, and other services. And so I want you to know that that happens online from 8 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. Monday through Thursday, from 8 to 4 on Friday, and again on Saturday from 9 to 1. So that's when our remote services are available. Because understandably, Alpharetta is a little more limited in hours, and also most of the time you do your work elsewhere. You don't necessarily do it here in the building. So I want you to know that we're there to help you, not just with first-year experience, but some of the other classes that you'll have as well. And you'll see how that's going to be reflected as I go forward. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen.
Hey, Robert, would you do me a favor? Will you Victoria, could you hear her?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, cool beans. All right, no worries, Robert. I was just going to ask you to text Victoria. Let Jody take a break, do you mind if I stand, on your shoulder?
No,
Jody?
That's fine. I understand she needs to hear.
Yeah.
Okay, just let me try.
That'd be so funny if I followed Jody around don't move and just on her all the time. Actually, I record this for everybody.
Okay.
And so we'll be famous the entire time.
Okay. So you should already be sharing a screen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Victoria at home can see this?
We have to go to, for example, go here and then go to share content and then go up here. Did you select it? And then go to Chrome. You have to go to Chrome tab.
Well, I would like to try to share the entire screen as opposed to just the tab.
Okay, see what happens.
Okay. Because what will happen is I'm going to jump around from tab to tab.
All right, let's just see. We'll do an experiment.
Okay.
Jody, Robert, can you see what she's on your Blackboard? Can you see what she's showing?
When you look at your computer screens now, do you see the dashboard?
Good.
Okay, good.
Okay. Now, when you want to go to the library's homepage, we always tell you to go through the dashboard first. Because one of the things we're going to be accessing a lot is databases. And databases are a paid-for service. But as students, you've already paid for that with your technology pay. So if you're ever on a database and it starts asking you for money, don't pay money. You already have. Back out, go into your dashboard, and look for the library's icon. Because what we use is called a single be using, your student email, probably some of you might have labs, but there is one for the GTC library and Galileo. And that is the way that you want to access the library. That's the way you want to get to Gwinnett Tech's databases available for your educational use. Okay? Once you're at the library's homepage, this is what you see. And I just want to point out two things for you kind of right away. The first one is the make a reservation right down here. The library, campus libraries are physically open. You can come into them, you can use the study rooms, the computers, you still can get your 300 pages of printout, you still can use the services, check out books and things. The library has also added webcams and downloaded Respondus Lockdown to the computers. I just see you're all using that today, but if any of you had Chromebooks, a lot of our students with Chromebooks are having difficulties taking their online tests. And so they are able to reserve a webcam, they are able to reserve a computer, and they're able to take their tests there. So if you're ever having those complications, we want you to know that's a new service that we bought in this semester.
Can you clarify for some of them the Respondus Lockdown, because some of them don't have to use Respondus Lockdown yet?
Oh, okay. Respondus Lockdown is a software that a lot of our online classes and some of the hybrid classes are using in order to take your exams remotely. It is a software that works with a camera, so it's watching you as you take your test. So if you have someone sitting there, it's going to see if you're talking with somebody, it's going to see if you're cheating, it's going to see if stuff is going on in the room. And so that's something that the school has started using. Not every class uses it. That's true.
Can I interject just to remind you, in first year experience, we don't. Remember, we talked about, I think on page 171 last week about testing. We do open book testing, and I believe it may have been you, Tracy, that read for us that open book testing is the worst, hardest type of test because people expect that you'll have the time to flip through. So just prepare for this coming week. Remember to scan over chapters 1 and 2, scan, memory notes, read, and take notes. So just be ready because I don't use Respondus Lockdown. Open book instead. Thank you for that. Interlude?
And every test and software has its quirks. So, and my daughter was taking it at another university in their library, and it had light sensors. And so the text was still, the lights kept turning off, and she'd have to tell Respondus, the lights have turned off, I have to turn them back on. So she'd have to move around to get them turned back on. So, but that is available for you. We want you to know that's there. We also want you to know that our study rooms are open and the space is open for you. So if you do need us face-to-face, we are available face-to-face. But as I said in the beginning, we also realize that you're going to do a lot of your work remote, and we've done our best to try to be as available remotely as possible. One of the first ones is the pop-up box that comes out here, our chat one. So if you had a question, you could chat with someone that is during open hours. So if you went on a Thursday at 10 o'clock at night, chat won't be available. It's only that 8 to 8:30, Monday through Thursday, 8 to 4 on Friday, and 9 to 1. Okay. Also, we have Meet with a Librarian. This is either in person or online. These are one-on-one reference sessions. So if you wanted to do it online, we would do exactly what we're doing right now. The librarian will send you a Blackboard link. You'll open it up. We'll share screens, audio, and go back and forth. So lots of times when term papers come due and other things, students need a little help locating resources, articles, and such. And so that's some one-on-one session with you as opposed to a class time like this.
Well, what type of class actually do you see the most of? English 1101, or that people come to you most for references?
We see a lot of English 1102.
1102, okay.
That is a little more of the advanced class. But we can see, I've seen criminal justice students, psychology students, humanities students. They've all got some kind of research assignments that have needed some help. Which is really great because that segues into the next area of the web page that I want to show you, and that is what we call our LibGuides. Sometimes we also call them research guides. So those two terms are interchangeable, just to let you know.
And LibGuides is L-I-B as in boy, like library, guides, LibGuides.
LibGuides. Which she's pointing out because it's part of the URL at the top of the screen. You'll see it says gtclibrary.libguides.com. Once you're at our webpage, you can access them two ways. You can use one of the quick links at the top that says research, or you can come down to where it says LibGuides and databases. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. Now, has your screen changed? So I have Victoria see something different too.
Robert, did your screen change to this one? On Blackboard?
Yes. Okay. Excellent. So I just want to make sure she can see that at home too. Now, there's a lot of things on this screen because what we've done is we've highlighted some of it. We have the list of databases, A to Z, et cetera, et cetera. For this class purpose, I really want you to look at the left side of the screen where it says Research Guides. These research guides are specially designed web pages for your classes. The librarian doesn't come into every single class. She very graciously has me come into first year experience. I usually will go only into the English classes, 1101 and 1102. So I don't go into criminal justice. I don't go into psychology. But what we've done then is we've created these specially designed pages. I'm going to make this screen a little bit larger. Hopefully it's not too large for the online. So you can see the titles a little better. As I go down, you'll see there's one for American government. You will see there is the criminal justice one, culinary, the English one, but you will also see there is your first year experience one. So there is a page designed for this class as well.
Actually, there's several pages.
There are. I'm going to show you two of them today. I'm going to click on the first one that says First Year Experience 1000. This page gives you a lot of background information about information literacy. There is a small component in your class, as my understanding, about evaluating information.
Absolutely, yes.
And this page is where you will find a lot of that information. We go, what we use is tabs. They're on the left side of the screen. So the first one is an introduction. It tells you what is information literacy, what does employees look like, research, etc. Gives you a little practice. We do talk about Galileo, which I'm going to jump back to in just a minute, but I'm going to go down. We talk about evaluating information, what we call the track test. And evaluating information is very important for you to think about, not just in your education, but your life. That term, fake news, comes up a lot, right? And so you want to be thinking about all the information. You guys are constantly bombarded with more information than I ever was when I was your age. Some of it's real, some of it's not. Take everything with a little grain of salt. And what we recommend is do a little bit of research on your own. We do talk about timeliness. Is it timely? Is it up to date? Is it relevant? Accuracy is very important. We need to think about it. If I said, and I'm going to use the measles, if I said there were 500 cases of measles in Georgia, you start thinking, right? Now, if I said there were 50 cases of measles in Georgia, as quoted by the CDC, you think a little different, right? Which one are you going to believe? CDC. It's okay. You don't hurt my feelings. I'm just wondering. That's not my area of study.
Can I interject that that's going to be in Chapter 9?
Okay.
That we'll go through and look at how, as a matter of fact, some of the case studies that you'll have will be going out into the websites, and I'll give you 2 actual case studies there to figure out if they're credible sources of information or not. So what she's talking about with the trap, you'll apply in Chapter 9.
So I'm a little bit ahead. What I'm saying now, though, is think about it in your own life. If you're on the Twitter and you're on everything else, don't just flip so quick, okay? Think about information. And then you'll go over this a little bit more, but I wanted you to know it's here. What's also here is information about citing sources. How do I cite sources and other information about citing sources, which probably will come up in some.
That actually is going to be in your learning styles assignment, which will be part of Chapter 4, how you learn, and I'll ask you to go back and cite the sources that we use to take all the tests that you have. So.
Okay. So I just wanted you to see that information is there for you, and that's part of the page. What we also have is a link to Galileo. We have that up here because Galileo is a great universal resource available in the state of Georgia. Have any of you used Galileo before? It's okay to say no. That's okay. Georgia is a great state. It's one of the forerunners in this consortium agreement of purchasing databases of discounts and giving everyone in the state access to information. So right now, as Gwinnett Tech students, you have access to our Galileo, and we pick and choose what databases go in it. So here's how my colleague describes Galileo, which I think is a pretty good one to think about, because I'm a physical when you go to the mall, it's just a big building, but inside it are a lot of different buildings. So Galileo's the mall, and the databases are your different stores inside it. So you go to shoe stores and shirt stores, the specialty things, right? And the databases are specialty things. And then the image goes to show that the databases are indexing magazines and journals. They're kind of indexing the articles that are in there. And then those are the articles. So databases aren't necessarily universal, and they're not all indexing the same journals. So sometimes when you look in one database, you might have to look in another. What's great about using Galileo is kind of looking at all the databases at once. That can give you overwhelming results, so do keep that in mind, okay? But it's very useful to help you find information. As I said, you have access to our Galileo here, but you have access to another one. Does anybody know where they can access Galileo once you graduate from here? Oh, and that's okay not to know that library yet, because I want you to know, okay? The public library. You can go to any public library that you're a resident in the county of and get a free library card. And public libraries have access to Galileo as well. That's really helpful when you're job searching, or when you have a job and your boss starts asking you to get information. Go into any public library, ask the librarian to help you. They have access to several Galileo databases as well. So just because you graduate here doesn't mean you don't have access to those databases anymore. You might have access to some of the academic ones that we subscribe to, but you still have access to information through the public library. So do keep that in mind. So this is some of the information that we have in the SYES 1000 page. And as was specifically pointed out, there are more pages than just that one, because we've created a 1000 final project.
This will be about your career choices. The final project is chapter 12.
Right. And so I said Galileo is very overwhelming and has a lot of information. So what we've done in this page is we've taken out some specific databases that will help you with that final project. And as you look at the titles, in tab 2, it's the Occupational Outlook Handbook, which will give you information about duties and salaries and outlooks. You're not up to your final project yet, so this doesn't really make all that much sense as to what you need to, the information you need to pull out yet, but you will when you get the assignment. I just want to make sure that you know that this web page is here for you when you come to do it, right? We have Ferguson's Career and Guidance Center as well, and we have Image Quest. Now, when you use an image in any of your PowerPoint presentations, do you need to cite them? Yeah, the answer is yes. What's great is this database called Image Quest is full of they're copyright-free images. So you won't be violating any copyright. You will still need to cite them, though. But this database has a good wide range of them, and that will help you when you need images for PowerPoint. And that's for any class, not just this one, right? Statista is just as the name implies, statistical information, which again, at the moment doesn't make sense because you haven't necessarily done your project yet, but when you go to do it, it'll make sense. I just want you to know that this page is here for you. Okay? Does anyone have any questions?
I do, but it's not about this.
Oh, okay.
Can you tell them what you meant when you referred to 300 pages back in the very beginning? 300 pages of printouts, I think maybe you might have referred to it as?
Yeah, sorry, I went through that really quickly. As part of your technology fees, you do get free paid printouts on campus, right? So in the lab, and the library here is considered a lab. So if you don't want to burn up your home printer or use up all your toner, if you have to print stuff out, you could come into the library, log into one of the computers, well, you make a reservation for CDC contact tracing compliance. You reserve a computer, come on in, log in using your email and email password, go to whatever site it is you need to print from, and then you'll print to the library printer there, and you'll get up to 300 pages for free. And then after that, it's at 1 cent.
1 cent a page?
Yes. It's pretty
good.
Yeah, it's pretty cheap. So, I find nursing students in anatomy and physiology, they print out the most. I don't know what any of your majors are, but yeah, so if you wanted to do that, in the time of COVID though, We are trying not to pass around papers as much, I've noticed, so it's not as much advantage as it has been in the past, because you have to handle stuff electronically, right? So, but it is still there for you. Just as we said, we've had a return to service, so we've tried to open up all the services we had before, and also give you new ones as the needs are arising. We keep it that service. So, if there's anything that you ever library related that you need some assistance with, come in and talk with us. And if we can't get it right away, we'll try to do the best we can to help you out. Okay.
So, Jody, before you go, I have a question. Have any of your classes asked you yet to use the library? Have you had any reason? Has anybody even ever brought it up to you yet? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, okay.
Well, so you'll know. Victoria, has anybody asked you to use the library?
No.
Victoria, she says no. Bless her heart.
Yeah, it tends to be a point of need service. Like, it doesn't come to mind until you need it, until you need a quiet place to study, until you need to print out a lot of pages and you don't want to do it, or your computer breaks, or you have an assignment, that kind of thing. But let me tell you, even if you graduate from a 2-year degree here and you go on to another university, you don't get a prize for never going to the library. In fact, it just kind of does yourself a disservice. These are services provided to you for free. Hop in, meet the librarian, say hello. If you never use it again, just based on maybe what your major may be, that's okay. But definitely know where these resources are, know who's operating them, say hi. We're here to support you. We're here to help you succeed. We want you to graduate. We want you to become employable. We want you to succeed. So that's what we're here for.
I have one last question. Do you have copies of the FYES book downstairs? I know you had one.
Yeah.
Yes. And did I give you versions edition 3?
Not yet.
Not yet. I owe you an edition 3. Okay, good.
So I do. I have what's called on reserve, where it's in library use only. I have 2 copies of the first year experience, 2nd edition.
So you need a 3rd. Okay.
Yeah. So if you do make copies out of mine, just be mindful of the page numbers, because that's where they tend to be off when editions change. Just make sure they match what your assignments say. You can then take the books over to the photocopier and you can photocopy them. And photocopying here is good. Everything though is black and white, 8.5 by 11. So you won't get color copies, but you'll get black and white ones. So if you need to just come in and photocopy the assignment out of the book, you're more than welcome to do that.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming.
Do you guys have any questions for me before I leave? No, that's okay. You don't know what you don't know until you don't know it, right? So that's okay. Just remember, I'm down there. I'm there to help you. Okay?
Do you want to log yourself off?
I already did that.
Oh, you did?
All yours.
Oh, my
Yeah,
goodness.
that's what I did earlier. That's what I was like, if you don't mind me using yours, that's yours. Because most of the dashboards have that library icon on them. So if you don't, come and let me know, so we can get IT put it on there for you. Because at some point you will need it in your academic career.
Just for exercise sake, why don't we give her a round of applause? All right. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Yep.
All right.
Good luck. Yeah, bye-bye.
I think that probably one of the things as a graduate student that I know the most is the need to understand how to research. And so I recognize you guys might not be graduate students yet, but you will be. All right, talk to me about the SMART goals. Did you get it? Did everybody get them in? Did you, Robert? Cool, okay. So did you come up with cool things for yourselves to challenge yourselves with? Is your life, or did you just fill in some blanks real fast to get the assignment in? I'm just so dying to know. No, what, Tracy? No?
Real life things.
Real life things? Okay, good. Robert, did you do real life? Oh, Robert, you're putting your head down. What? Oh, you did complicated things. All right. Now, Robert, you do remember last week we talked about make it simple, right? All right, I'm going to look at them, and then you know what? I'll push it back, probably. Nicole, how'd you do? You had trouble. You didn't have, wait a minute. You had no trouble except with one. All right. Well, I'll grade it. Remember, anything that I grade, and this is not just for Victoria, but did you guys notice you were the stars last week? I posted your all's lecture for every other class, all other 8 classes. Did you guys see that? Well, you might not have known that. So is that okay? I hope so. I'll do it today, too, if that's all right with you, because it gives people the advantage, especially the online folks, of hearing a live lecture right off the bat. So the more you participate, trust me, the more entertaining it becomes. So, and I'm sure it's not just going to be you, Robert, that put complicated goals down. And so I will look at it, but here's what I want to go, and I'm going to work my way backwards. So the Atomic Habits book by James Clear, he talks about this. So I'm just going to just write this down, okay? He says that if you make 1% change and it's compounded over time, that you either have, now the change could be negative or the change could be positive. So for those of you who can't see the board, I drew a line going downward as a downward trend or upward. So the key is that if you, and this gentleman, by the way, James Clear, was hit in the face by a baseball bat when he was playing in high school. He was targeted to go, back, he had a scholarship already to go play in a university. And so when the whoever swung the bat, not on purpose, let the bat go out of his hand. You can imagine the power that was in that. It broke his nose, but when it broke his nose, it pushed the skull, the cartilage and everything, into his brain, which immediately began to swell. So for a year, he was, they didn't even know if he was going to live. They put him underneath a coma when he first got into the hospital, and it was touch and go for a long time. So he had to build small habits. He just could not let go of his goal to play ball. And he let go of, what he started to do to rehabilitate, of course he had all sorts of therapy, but for himself, he broke everything down into what his body could manage, his mind could manage. And so it was minute. The idea of atomic habits is that atoms are the smallest thing that you can break a chemical or an essence down to. You agree with that? So he then took tiny steps to rebuild himself back up. And if you ever look him up, James Clear, then you'll see how successful he became. And he built it on small steps. Now, the thing I thought was most impressive was the compounding interest of a 1% positive change. So his idea is that you don't try to make a one-time major transformation. Instead, you look at the trajectory that if you do 1% every day, what improvement would that equal in a year? So he asks you to look at the way you weigh. I thought about this because I'm still on Weight Watchers. I still have 14 pounds left to lose, but I've lost 27. That's good. I get a round of applause. Thumbs up or something. I did good, didn't I? Tracy, you did say that, right? Yeah, thank you. So he said the weight that you weigh or the way your life is or the clutter you're living in or whatever it is that you're changing didn't happen in one major situation. It's actions or habits that are compounded over day after day after day that brought you to where you are. So to unwind that, or maybe to rebuild in a different direction, just think in small steps, atomic steps. So when you're looking at your SMART goals, I know you're probably on, and maybe you should, only do one little bit at a time, one goal at a time. Like work on one goal for a month, then work on your other goal for a month. Remember, 2 of them are going to be due as a report out on April the 3rd. So every week I'm going to ask you about them. I just nudge you just a little bit. And you might want to set your environment up to nudge you too. Like for my exercise goal in the morning, I have my gym clothes. Of course, I'll go down in the basement to do what I need to do. But I have it right by my bed. So I don't have to look for the shoes. I don't have to look for the yoga pants. I don't have to look for any of that. I have it all just neat in a little row, but it took me a long time to even get into that habit. So, James, are you going to ask me? Robert, are you going to ask me something?
So it's April 3rd and not March 31st?
March 31st is like a Thursday, so I'm going to move it back to April the 3rd. That's my mistake. I did make that mistake because in my head I was saying, oh, March 31st, that must be a Saturday. It's not. It's April the 3rd. So, yeah. So progress on 2 of them by April the 3rd. Maybe you finish them. Now, I don't know. Nicole had not read this yet. This came out of LinkedIn. And so I don't know. Did anybody else read this homepage thing? I'm going to try to change it every week. Yeah, what did you think about it?
I honestly don't remember.
Robert, did you read it?
I was trying to understand what was it pertaining to.
Well, if you look at the top, it's me. Actually, I was on LinkedIn. How many of you know what LinkedIn is? Okay, Tracy does. Robert, you and Nicole don't. Victoria, do you know what LinkedIn is?
I do.
Okay, good. So for Nicole and Robert, let me tell you that LinkedIn is the probably largest social media or social platform for job seekers and actually for professionals, Tracy, because not always are you looking for work. It comes finding you, work does. I'm going to recommend as part of Chapter 12 that you guys start looking at LinkedIn and you develop a LinkedIn profile. Now, until it is ready for prime time, I would keep it in a private mode. Just like CareerLink is going to be, where's my pen? CareerLink is the LinkedIn version for Gwinnett Tech. CareerLink by Chapter 12, I hope all of you will have. I'll give you extra credit for doing LinkedIn because that is, CareerLink, because CareerLink is where you'll find internships and apprenticeships for people who come to Gwinnett Tech and look for students who match what they need. And this is one of the ways through CareerLink. So you can go to Gwinnett Tech and say, look for the CareerLink site. We'll continue to look at this, but the extra credit I'll certainly give you. So the perspective, since this may not have made sense, this was when I was on LinkedIn myself last week, and this was just in my feed from someone that I know. It's from a dad in New Jersey, and it was talking about the fact that his son was not gifted in anything except maybe grit. What do I mean by grit? Now, not grits, but what do I mean by grit? Okay, Tracy, what? Well, keep going. I'm repeating it only for Victoria's sake.
No, I'm saying, like, his grit, like, his will or wanting to be successful, I guess.
All right, so grit, his will or wanting to be successful. Nicole, Robert, would you add to that definition of grit? His determination. That's good, his determination. You were going to say that too, Nicole? All right, so can you think of a time in your own life when you demonstrated grit? Somebody Google for me the definition of resilience. And while you're doing that, resilience. This is what I'm so impressed by this last sentence. We can also see the lessons in his labor. What does that mean before, or has anybody got resilience, a definition of resilience? You do, Nicole, what is it? Can you say it loudly enough for I'll repeat it maybe. The capacity to recover quickly from difficulties, toughness, okay. So there is a verse in the Bible that says it's not how many times you get knocked down, but how many times you get back up. I don't even think you have to go to the Bible for that. I think that's something that you hear in a lot of places. So the idea, what do you think means by, and this kind of leads us into chapter 2. So he talks about all these things that he was not born naturally with. I even think he developed better study habits. What does it say? Not a natural test taker. He developed better study habits, grinded out a 4.25 GPA by staying up later and doing extra work. Not born into riches. He leveraged his natural leadership abilities into an Eagle Scout, yada, yada, yada. But if you look at the bottom, his appointment to West Point, that's a huge deal. We can also, this is what I want your thoughts on. I'm sorry, standing in front of the screen. We can also see the labors or lessons in his labor. What does that mean to you?
Work show for itself.
His work spoke for itself. And Tracy, you said?
I was going to say something like that.
Yes. So would people say that about you? Okay, Robert, you're saying yes. Okay. Excellent. So you own your own. Oh, that's awesome. Tracy, you also are, I know you work in finance.
Yeah, slaves in finance.
See, slaves in finance. Nicole, you could one day own your own cosmetology company. So, but the idea is that you'll see lessons in your labor even when it comes to classes. Let's look at the lesson number 2. Let's go backwards and look. I love this quote. Tell me, what is it that you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? We're in lesson 4. So I'm going to download this. I don't know that we'll get to the PowerPoint. I'm going to leave it to you guys to get to the PowerPoint. So I want to go into what your assignments are in lesson number 2. Denzel Washington, how many of you know him? Yeah, okay, he has a new movie out I saw on HBO Max called The Little Things. I love that man. He's been a role model of mine for a very long time. Hang on just a second. So what you'll do is you'll just click on that link that I just showed you, and I just want to play just a little bit of it to make sure that that works. The link does work. So Victoria, hang on just a second. I'm going to share the video, and I'm going to go up to Chrome tab, pick up this. Let me tell you how this is going to work. We're going to just show just a little of this video.
It's finally made an appearance.
Tell me if you can hear it.
I found that nothing in life is worthwhile unless you take risks. Nothing. Nelson Mandela said, "There is no passion to be found playing small and settling for a life that's less than the one you're capable of living." Now, I'm sure in your experiences in school and applying to college and picking your major and deciding what you want to do with life, I'm sure people have told you to make sure you have something to fall back on. Make sure you got something to fall back on, honey. But I never understood that concept, having something to fall back on. If I'm going to fall, I don't want to fall back on anything. I want to fall forward. I figure at least this way I'll see what I'm going to hit.
That'll be my teaser. I think you're really going to like what he has to say. Victoria, could you hear any of that?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, good. So when you go back to your own places, you're going to finish watching that. I think it is about 10 minutes. And let me go back to the lesson. Let me make sure that's where I'm headed with Victoria, too. So you're going to listen to that video, and then somebody tell me, then what do you do? Discussion number 2 should be back in front of you. So after you listen to the video, what do you do for this discussion assignment? This will help you with your test. Tracy, put it in your own words, girl. All right, you're going to, okay, so go ahead, tell me.
And or one point you dislike and disagree with, and why.
Yeah, but between the video and what? How do you, what's the combination? In other words, what's the recipe for this? You look at the video, and then what else do you go back to? Your personal life, sure, and there's one more thing you go back to, chapter 2. So you need to actually watch the video, which is about, like I said, about, 10 minutes and 6 seconds, yeah. And then you find a specific term in chapter 2 that is also in the video that relates to your life. So, in other words, the video, Robert, thank you so much for that questioning look. The video matches exactly the book. And they're going to, Nicole, do you think that was, well, I can still see his questioning look, even underneath the mask. Your eyes, remember, you got to remember this about nonverbal communication. You cannot not communicate. You understand that? So you cannot, matter of fact, that's something you ought to write down. Because now I'm also listening to a book called The Biggest Bluff, which is about playing poker. So it's a great, great book. However, you cannot not communicate. You are leaking messages all the time. By your posture, your eye contact, the way you shift your eyes, your eyebrows raising up, only one eyebrow raising up, you cannot not send a message. And as humans who have survived to this spot, we are trained to read it. We might not read it appropriately, but we are trained to interpret it. But anyway, Robert, you gave me a great segue. Make sure you have skimmed, scanned, done memory notes, read, and take notes on Chapter 2. Watch the video, and to do this discussion post, you're going to find a term that matches in both the video and in the book, because he's going to use a lot of terms that come straight from your book. And if it's not an actual word, it could be a concept. I mean, the Chapter 2 and this video go hand in hand, and it needs to relate to your personal life. Then what you do you see here? It says, cite the page where the term or concept that you found in Chapter 2 comes from. Remember your 100 words, and then remember to reply to other people's posts. I minimized the points here on replies so that we could actually do more activities throughout the semester. So are there any questions about discussion number 2? It's due on Saturday. You only have one other thing due this Saturday, and that is your test. Now, for other classes, a lot of people did not, I won't say a lot, there were other classes during which SMART goals were not handed in. So I do want to tell you this. When you think about something that, okay, let's go back to poker. There is a phrase, yes, sir. Yes, sir, it's due this coming Saturday. So let's talk about poker just a second. So there is a slang term in poker when you're playing high stakes called a beat. That means you've been defeated. And the whole phrase is a bad beat. A bad beat is when you lost your hand and you had sold out of the game. You lost money. A bad beat. So what I learned last night is when you are playing poker, you don't talk about your bad beats. Instead, because you recapitulate that to everybody else. In other words, you rehearse it or regurgitate or vomit it back up to everybody. And then the person who wrote this book, called The Biggest Bluff, is a psychologist who did this as part of her doctoral dissertation. Instead, what they tell you to do in poker is to focus on the process. So the reason that I bring this up is when you're doing your test this week, preparing for your test, or when you're looking at an assignment that you missed, you don't belabor or beat yourself up because you missed something. Instead, don't even talk about what you missed. Look at the process that led you to missing it. Okay, somebody say that back, or let's let that soak in for just a second. It actually fits into your emotional intelligence, resilience, and motivation chapter 2. So what is the point of not discussing the bad beat? In other words, the hand you lost in poker, or how badly you got slaughtered. Go ahead, Tracy. Go. No, go.
I mean, because it already happened. So
Exactly.
now you look at how to prevent it from happening again, or what, led up to that.
What led up to, that's a perfect synonym for process. So because the psychology of repeating a story in which you lost only informs your mind to develop a certain perception about yourself. But if you think through what got you to that place, then as Tracy said, what led up to it, you begin to evaluate how to change. That may fit into your SMART goals. It's certainly going to fit into resilience, emotional intelligence, and motivation. So let me just give you some advice from poker. Don't talk about your bad beats where you were beaten badly. Instead, focus on the process that got you there. Here's another exercise. This is an example, and I want us to go through this before we leave. And if we have time, we'll look at some of the PowerPoint slides. I'm going to leave it to you if we don't. Remember, the PowerPoint slide is a review of every chapter. So that will be a good way of looking at it. This is an example of what you will see on your test. Not this part, but this part. So let's take the next few minutes and let's look at this. Either from here, Victoria, you can see it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you will get a case study like this. The case study has 5 questions at the bottom, and you'll use your table. I noticed that some of you are in edition number 2, so the table and the pages won't exactly match, but they're close. So let's read this together. Does anybody want to read it out loud just to keep us at a pace?
Sure.
Okay, go for it, Tracy.
Aurora was excited about living in a residence hall, but she had never shared a room with anyone because she's an only child. On move-in day, Aurora met her new roommate, Liz. Liz came from a big family and shared a room with 2 younger sisters who slept in bunk beds near Liz's twin bed that was on one side of their shared bedroom. It was immediately apparent that Aurora and Liz did not share much in common, particularly on how their room would look. Liz left her clothes where she stepped out of them and left wet towels in random piles. Her other belongings seemed to be taking up space all over the room. Liz ignored Aurora's request to straighten up. The clutter bothered Aurora's ability to focus. Liz attempted to straighten things up, but she never could meet Aurora's standards. So Aurora huffed around a lot and gave Liz a lot of unhappy looks. After she came close to failing her biology project, Aurora came back to the dorm fuming. She knew that if she'd been able to focus better in her room, she would have aced that project. When Liz came in later that afternoon, dropping her backpack and hoodie in the middle of the floor before plopping down on her bed, Aurora had it. She blew up at Liz. Liz jumped up to argue back. That startled Aurora, who had never had anyone confront her like that. She turned quickly to get out of their room so she could find a safe place to think. But she moved too fast and bumped Liz's desk, causing a picture of Liz and her boyfriend to fall and shatter on the floor. Liz shrieked, yelling, "Look what you've done," and swearing that Aurora had better buy her a new frame. This is not how Aurora envisioned college life. She called her mother and begged her to call the director of residence life so she could move. But her mother wants her to try to work it out with Liz first.
That was excellent. Victoria, did you hear all that?
Yeah.
Good, because I'm asking those questions for the people who will be listening to it otherwise. Okay, everybody got the image? Remember, all of these are based on real life. This actually happened. Okay? So the names have been changed to protect the innocent. You guys got your books out? Because this is what you'll do on the test. The book says anger does not always lead to negative results. What page is that on? You guys know? You'll need to be able to know this chapter well enough to turn to it, and I think it's page 38. If you guys will turn to the book fast enough, see if it's there. The book says anger does not always lead to negative results. So here's what you'll answer. In your opinion, did Aurora use her anger appropriately or inappropriately? Explain your answer. So when you see this on the test, you won't see this case study. There'll be another case study. Then you'll need to explain your answer. So what page is anger management? Let me see what page I think it is. See if it's anger management's on page 39 on hers. You have version 2, edition 2? Yeah. Okay. Do you have edition 3? What is it, page 38 or 9 for you? All right, can I come back down and see? All right, Aurora. Tracy, look at it and see. Is it page anger management? It's 41 on yours. And let me see. Yours is 41 too. Okay. So you'll have read page 41, and then just to see what the book says about anger management, and then you'll explain your answer. So, I know you haven't maybe read it yet. So off the cuff, but I'm going to ask you to refer back and use concepts in the book. Maybe I need to make that clearer, but you will need to refer back and say, on page blah, 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 the book says, I agree or I disagree. But tell me just right off the bat, do you think that she handled her anger appropriately, or was it used inappropriately, and why?
my mind.
No, I want to know your mind. You don't have to agree with the book, because the book says, if you look at the book, and I'll just summarize it for you really quickly, the book gives two sides of anger. If it's applied appropriately, it's a good way of standing up for yourself. If it's applied inappropriately, then it can cause a lot of problems. Completely. Well, I think there's something called righteous anger. I've used it many times. Oh, the stories I could tell about that. I think if, I don't know, you tell me, Robert. Because it, ooh, boy, that was, how could you really control it? Go ahead, Tracy.
Well, you can't necessarily control it because it's a natural emotion. However, like, let's say somebody's always, like, for instance, how we have those bullies growing up, right?
Mm-hmm.
You never say anything, but you get angry because they bother you. But in the moment you do say something out of anger, that anger taught you to stand up for yourself. So I would say that that's how you could probably see anger in a positive light versus always in a negative light.
So I would say controlled anger. I would say anger that is thought through and that makes you stand up. That's what the book says. But what I'm, Nicole, do you have any thoughts?
I mean, I guess it's like trying to get it to like let it out in a kind of like a controlled way, like sit down, like instead of her laughing out, like sat down and let out what she needs to say, kind of, and then like be stranger from her own or something.
Ah, that's interesting, going to the gym. I do want to point out, Tracy, hang on, just a thought. What? Well, one of the things I've learned to do is meditate. I mean, I think the old-fashioned suggestion counts to 10. And then I have, in the moment, well, I'll tell you, my oldest son used to make me so angry because particularly he's extremely intelligent and very precocious. And I can remember asking him to help me with things. This is when he was in his teens, and he did not. And so instead of doing something that I could have been arrested for, I went down to the garage and slammed the garage door. Oh, gosh, that felt so good. I slammed it for 15 times, I know. The more I slammed it, the better I felt. I thought, gosh, I could do this all day. So it's kind of what Nicole said. It kind of released my energy. But however, just for the sake of time, you see how that kind of made you think. This is your reason we're going over this is what you'll do on your test. It'll be something that'll engage you just like this. There'll be one on mindset too, remember that. So you need to manage your time, but also, you know, as you're answering these questions and defend your answer. You can use the book or you can use something else. I do want to go to this one. Based on the table 2.3. That should be, I think, on page, it looks like it's 2.2. Is it 2.2 in your book? Turn the page over. Go in the opposite direction, Robert. Go back. Okay, one more, and see what page that table's on.
43.
And okay, it's 43?
41.
All right, and is your table 2.3? Okay, and your table's 2.2.
Yeah, but then it says 2.3, and then when you click it, automatically goes.
Okay, good, I got you. So it's up at the top of the page. I need to make that real clear. All right, it says based on table 2.3, so maybe we should say section 2.3, emotional skills and competency. You'll list an EI or emotional intelligence skill or competency Aurora needed to improve on, and what led you to select that skill or competency. Using the same table, number 3, what EI skill or competency might Liz practice more? And then let's look at number 4. Which skill from table 2.3 do you think Aurora's mom is trying to help Aurora strengthen?
Could it be more than one or no?
Yeah, it could be more than one. My main purpose for putting case studies on your test is not to catch you, just to see what you're thinking mainly. So especially on this one, the adaptability. I think. Tell me what would have made you choose adaptability?
Problem solving, and then reality testing.
I'm just curious, how many of you, if you had been the parent of Aurora, would have told the same thing that Aurora's mom said? You would not. Would you have removed her? Okay, so can you explain to us what would have made you?
Only because of my own personal upbringing, and that's what I'm familiar with. My parents, if I had an issue and I said I didn't want to be in this school, they would remove me out of the school.
They would have removed you out of the school? Okay. Robert, what about you? Oh, so if your daughter asked you to move, Daddy, get me out of here?
Yeah, I got a little question. Like, oh, so, I don't know.
Wait a minute. Robert, are you telling me that your daughter has you wrapped around her little finger? That's sweet. My daddy and I were really close too. Nicole, what would you have done if you were Aurora's mom? So you would have done what Aurora's mom did? That is the real case. That is what the real person's mother did. And as it turned out, they worked it out. But in the question, though, is asking you, what skill do you think the mom is trying to help do? And I think Tracy probably hit it, trying to build up her, even maybe stress management, too. I have to say, as a mother who just had one son graduate from Georgia Tech and another son at UGA, college is expensive. It's an investment. And so more so than maybe my mother did for me, I actually was probably more involved with, I stayed on the Parent Association Committee at Georgia Tech. I never saw my son, but the entire time he was there, all 4 years, all 5 years, frankly, I was on that campus because college, he was my money investment. Do you think that sounds bad?
No,
So,
I get it.
yeah, and so I was making sure he, if whatever's going on, I didn't want to hover. I also wanted my good return on my sweat equity. I don't know if that sounds bad or not. All right, the very last question is this one, and you'll have something like this, too, to make you think about yourself, and then I'm going to let you guys go. If you were in the same situation, which character are you more like? Liz, Aurora, or Aurora's mom? What emotional skill would you bring to this situation that seems to be lacking here? So regardless of the case study that I'll put in, there will be a question of self-reflection. Oh my gosh, both Robert and Tracy. Why? What makes that a bad question? Please tell me.
Because I'm still learning how to be a great parent. So I am one of those parents that I'm too connected to my child. Say that if another child hits my child, I would want to interject. I don't know how to control that. So I feel like that's a bad one.
I think that was... I don't agree. Well, okay, I'm not sure that I agree that it is a bad question, because what I'm hearing you say is that is making me look at myself too closely. Is that what I am hearing you say underneath the answer you just gave me? Maybe. So I think in that way, it's a good question, because it's going to give you the chance to think about yourself, which is exactly what, Tracy?
I already know I'm Liz.
You're Liz?
Yeah.
Okay. So in every case study, do you feel or think that you now have an idea of what you're going to see on the test? And you'll have another one like it. It'll be the mindset. And that mindset question is going to be also, that one's is very tricky actually, because unless you have a good feel for what mindset is, growth and fixed, then you may miss this one. But you will get it right if you understand what mindset is. Remember, the person who wrote mindset, if you want to just look her up on your own, is Carol Dweck, D-W-C-K, and you might just listen to her TED Talk, but that's up to you and how you might want to prepare. I really appreciate the extra time that you gave, and everything that you take for the test. I'll release it later this afternoon. I would not take it until you have scanned over. Actually, I wouldn't have taken it until you've read chapters 1 and chapters 2. Don't wait to the last minute, just in case something happens. And if by chance the internet does bump you off, email me. I'll delete that option or delete that, and you can do a do-over. But if you're like 30 minutes into the test, and I don't care, if you get bumped off, just let me know. Can you guys tell me as you leave? Victoria, you can be the first if you'd like. What are you leaving with that you didn't have when you came in?
The resources for the library. Now that I know that I have that, it'll help me a lot more.
All right. So Victoria. Yes, Victoria. Victoria is actually the name of one of the case studies. That's why I stopped. Victoria said the resources from the library. Nicole, what are you walking in that you didn't have before? Oh, good. The resources from the library. Robert, what did you learn to? What? More knowledge than you had last week. That is a safe answer, but I'm going to take it. Tracy?
Between the snippet of the Denzel video and the case study, how you broke it down, and going over the SMART and asking us what we found, if we found anything that may be a little harder, it's making me look at myself a little bit more.
Very good. If you guys heard that, Tracy said the thing in the front talking about you're going to love that Denzel video, and then talking about the SMART goals, in particular the atomic habits. Yes, thinking of breaking it down to smallest steps. Do that so you make sure you get success. Make sure you celebrate every small success to make a positive connection psychologically between your attempts at the goal and how you process through. And for me, don't forget, don't repeat the bad beats. Instead, go back and look at the process that got you there. Thank you so much. Yes, sir. Why was the extra credit so extreme? Wait a minute, what
She told us about it since day one.
You mean my education story?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did talk about that in day one, but what do you mean, Robert, by the word extreme? 1,500 words is only about, page and a half? It's a typical college essay. 3 pages for you? I cannot wait to read it. I am so impressed that you did that. All right, Victoria, I'm going to buzz off, and thank you so much. I hope you feel better.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. Guys, wait. Victoria, don't leave yet. One thing, I'm going home to see my mom for the weekend. It's supposed to snow there on Sunday. So what I'd like to do you guys mind if we have can we all just meet online next week to stay at your houses? Because if there is snow and I can't move, I don't want to run that risk trying to get in touch with you guys. So next week we will be all online. All right. Have a good week, you guys. Thank you so much. Wait a minute, let me come to the door. Bye, Victoria.